Good evening and welcome once again to the Literary Hour. I'm your co-host, Jackie Sai, and with me is my professor and co-host, Dr. K. Moses Nambi. Hi, Prof.
Hey Jackie, how are you?
How are you? So
Yeah,
today we're calling all the alumni of the University of Liberia to come. So we're going to discuss Lux in Tenebris, the University of Liberia, educating a nation. I told Prof that I think there's too much information to pack in one day, but we'll see. We are going to discuss uh, the creation of the university, challenges of the university's role in the global educational system. As you know, University of Liberia is one of the oldest, the second oldest next to Fura Bay College, which is now the University of Sierra Leone. So it's something to be proud of. We are very proud of our university. And today we're going to discuss it. Prof?
yes, I think it's very much important. The university has been a major voice in the development of the country, and therefore it is about time that we kind of shed some light on what it's been up to.
And today, as we are discussing, you will see us turning to notes. We took a lot of notes on the university, Prof. There's just so much out there. You have to sift it, and then you have to re-sift it, and then you have to put them together.
That's what it
So
means to be a very old institution.
so so we will be referring to our notes, but I will say that I know we are both alum of the University of Liberia, proudly so,
Yeah.
right, Prof?
Yes, proudly so.
Prof was my professor. He gave me a hard time. He still owes me a grade. I know he still owes me a grade. So we'll start with
If we counted all the professors that owe us grades, we will never get anywhere.
Prof. You owe me. You
Is
owe
that right? Okay. All right.
me.
We'll talk about that.
Okay, okay. So we're going to start with with the beginning as that's the place to start. And in 1848, Prof, the year after Liberia declared its independence, the Reverend John Payne, who was later Bishop of the Pentecostal Church and Episcopal churches, right? He went to the meeting of the Massachusetts Colonization Society, right? And there he met Simon Greenleaf, who was dean of the law school at Harvard. And Simon Greenleaf helped to draft the Constitution. He didn't write the Constitution of Liberia, but there he met Simon Greenleaf. At this time, what was happening was also that there were schools of higher learning being built in the United States just for the education of freed blacks. So it was a new thing coming out that now they need higher education. And so they decided that they were going to build one in Liberia, but Liberia College would be, they didn't call it Liberia College first. The genesis was that they needed a higher education institution. So they said it would be national, non-sectarian, but not non-religious, Prof, not non-religious. And at that time, there were schools in Liberia that were mostly created by churches, especially the Methodist, the Baptist, right? They had schools in Liberia, but there was no institution of higher learning in Liberia at the time. So the president of the Massachusetts Colonization Society at the time was Simon Greenleaf. And Simon Greenleaf felt that this was a very good idea to have an institution of higher learning in Liberia. Want to add anything, Prof?
No, the thing about it is that after the formation of the Republic of Liberia, people were far-sighted enough to ensure that at some level, national leaders, the the raising of national leaders to continue. It would
Yes.
become a generational type thing. So it was important that a, an institution of higher learning, a public institution at that, would be
Yes.
set up. One of the things we need to keep in mind was that this institution would, in a sense, play a role of increasing the platform of the elite, so that Liberia College would be an arm of state building, an arm of state building. It's very much
Yes.
important for us to keep that in mind. Once it was an arm of state building, there was significant support coming from the coffers of government to fund that institution. But at a later time, towards the end of the 50s and what have you, um, towards the end of the 40s, really, it came a time that there was a kind of campaigning for uh, higher education to not only be for the elite, but also for ordinary people. Now, once that element got there, at some point, the kind of support that will come in to boost up the college kind of dwindled. And that tension of state support versus no support at all became a problem. And that has persisted to this time.
Yeah, it's important to look at the way things originated for the school, because you have a local so the Maryland Colonization Society set up a local board of trustees that was responsible for the day to day, but the finances, the rules and regulations governing the school was to be made by the foreign board of
Mhm.
trustees, the one in Maryland, and that created some tension later on, not at that time. So what it was that when they wrote the letter to Mr. Clay, Joseph Tracy was the one who wrote the letter. He was the secretary, and he was the one who kept saying, we're not going to be able to fund this through the dues of the American Colonization Society. As the universe, as this institution grows, we would need more money. So when he wrote the letter, he said, and I quote, "A few gentlemen of this city have a project under consideration, which, if successfully executed, may have very important consequences. It is the establishment of a well endowed college or university in Liberia. That such an institution cannot be brought into full operation at once, but must be a work of time, is with them no ground of discouragement, but rather a reason for beginning soon." But then he goes on to say the details of the plan. At present, it is thought best that the funds should be kept here, where it is safe and in some safe investment. So, Prof, I will come to you and say why. Why should the funds be kept there?
Kept, you mean at home in the country?
In Maryland, yeah, in
Yeah,
Maryland, not in Liberia.
yeah, okay, well, I mean, it was an element of integrity. It was an element of ensuring that, you know, once those who were a kind of gathering the funds, they had to keep an eye on it. And it goes without saying that uh, once they knew, at every time the funds were kind of running low, obviously they will have a kind of immediate kind of knowledge about it and see what to do about it. So integrity and all those things factored in the process.
And Amos Lawrence gave the first gift of $100. So thank you, Amos.
Well, we have to ask whether he was a slave owner too.
In 1850, he
Yeah,
gave 100. In
that was
1851, he
uh,
gave 1,000.
okay.
So that's good.
There,
Okay,
there,
so mhm.
there were, meaningful people really who were of great goodwill and were willing to chip in into the success not only of the college but also of the young nation.
Okay. So again, we come back to history, and as I said, for those of you who are just coming, we have so much, and some of it is written down. So we're going to be referring to our notes, but we're going to take you through, and these have sources. So this is not Jackie and Professor Nangwe speaking; these are historical documents. So now, after they had discussed this, Prof, they had discussed about building this university, I mean this college and things like that. So then in 1849, right? They Simon Greenleaf, who was still the president at the time, right? He passed these resolution from the board, from the Maryland Colonization Society. Whereas the Republic of Liberia ought to have within itself the means of educating citizens for all the duties of public and private life, among which means a college is indispensable. And whereas the greater part of the funds for the support of such an institution must be collected and can be most advantageously invested and managed in the United States, therefore, it is resolved that the managers of this society be requested in correspondence with the managers of the national and state colonization societies to procure as soon as may be the organization of a board of trustees for that purpose. So appoint its own officers, right? So now they everything's coming into play. They are going to procure this. They're going to do everything that So they put Simon Greenleaf again in the head because he was the president. He was in the head. So Simon Greenleaf said that they should do an exploratory mission, right, Prof? Jump in.
Yeah, yeah, I'm listening.
Yeah. So he said an exploratory mission. So he said it is resolved that, and then later he says, it is resolved that this board have learned with much pleasure that the subject of establishing a college in Liberia has engaged the attention of the managers of the Massachusetts Colonization Society. So my thing is that, is it because Simon Greenleaf was associated with Harvard University and himself an educator that he felt that, I mean, that he was saying, oh, this is something good? Do you think if somebody else had been, they might not have been so agreeable to building a college?
Because the thing about it we have to keep in mind is that in the formative stage, both of Liberia and the institution of higher education, people often try as much as possible to gravitate towards people first who show much interest, and two, have the capacity of goodwill, three, are people of integrity. And all these coming together would kind of become a support pooling point. So that is why, remember now that Greenleaf was not only with this subject of higher institution. Greenleaf had also helped work on the Constitution of the Republic of Liberia, even
Yeah,
though
yeah.
there was some tension created at a point where Greenleaf was not interested in the rights of women.
Yes,
Greenleaf was
yes,
not interested in
yes,
the right of women. Therefore, that little tension had been there. But whatever the case, the idea that he was resourceful, the idea that he was kind of insightful, they thought to still, it was like talking about, taking the lesser of two evils or what have you. So they brought him on board, they allowed him, and he did what he had to do.
and then when they were discussing this formation of this higher education, they started to ask educators in Liberia, principals of the other
Mhm.
schools that were existing in Liberia. And the principal said that, oh, really right now we don't need a college. Maybe you could have a high school. I mean, um, maybe almost like something right after high school, but not really a college.
Yeah.
And Greenleaf did not want that. So Greenleaf he felt that no, this was not what he wanted. So the board decided to ask J.J. Roberts, who had been president,
Yeah.
to become the president of
Liberia College.
college. And so on September 30th, President Roberts says, this is his letter, and I quote, and this is historical, so we'll be quoting. I assure you, sir, I am truly delighted at the prospect of having permanently established in Liberia the means of education or collegiate education. This subject, more than any other for many years, have given me great concern, right? And then he said, without education, we have no security for the perpetuity of our government or our free institutions. And so he said, I consider a new era has dawned in Liberia. So he accepted it. He accepted it. And in response, the legislature passed resolutions requesting the president to inform the trustees of donations in case there's money. And then they said to the principals who were saying, "Oh, we just want another high school." They said, "As Liberia, I quote, as Liberia has already a system of common schools established by law and in actual operation, needing only a supply of better qualified teachers, the trustees will direct their efforts wholly to the higher branches of education for which no adequate provision has yet been made." End of quote. So that they said that. So on December 24th, 1851, the legislature passed an act which was approved, giving the board all the necessary powers, and the charter was nearly the same as all of the colleges in the United States. Now, Prof, the charter. Listen, all of you who are, all you viewers, listen. I quote, it granted to the college 100 acres of land. This is important because we will come back. Remember, Prof, I told you when you and I were doing our research, or when I called you to tell you about research, I was discovering things, Prof.
Mm-hmm.
I was finding things. I was like, whoa. So it granted to the college 100 acres of land at Clay Ashland on the St. Paul River, about 15 miles from Monrovia, which at the time was thought to be the best site for a college. So they did that. They found the land in Clay Ashland. They felt that that was the best land that they had. So that's what they got. And then they still got money. You know, people were donating money to this Liberia College, and it was going up. Yeah. So in October 1852, the trustees of donations, that's what they were called, because they were the ones with the finances, they voted to send an agent to Liberia in order to consult with the trustees of the college as to the instruction and the erection of buildings and to gather information, right? To say, to look at Clay Ashland land and to start making preparations. President Roberts approved the information, I mean the proposal, and stated that the trustees of the college had organized and accepted the act of incorporation. So it was also understood, and Prof, this is what you were talking about. It was also understood that they also favored the conversion of the high school into a preparatory department.
Yeah.
What's a preparatory department?
Well, more of it's okay. You will find out that they call a extramural division of the
Oh, okay,
extramural division.
like 003 remedial.
That's where, for instance, even if you are not prepared to enter the college directly, you had courses that will kind of prop you up to be able to get into the college.
It was very interesting. You know how we were talking about the fact that the college was not non-religious. But then they said that when Simon Greenleaf died, the person who became president of the Massachusetts Colonization Society was a Reverend Payne, an Episcopal missionary, right?
Yeah.
But then, although he felt that okay, it should be religious, they said he believed that the great need of the country was a literary and scientific one. A literary, Prof, a literary, scientific one. Yes. So yeah. And you know Joseph Jenkins Robert, when he became president of Liberia College and he went to the United States, in his discussion, and he stated, and I quote, he says, Liberia College must be purely national, in no sense sectarian, and its government, this is the government of the university, its government must be entirely free from all denominational control, in which case only can the various missions be brought to unite in its support.
Now, there's an element of academic freedom and all those things coming into the picture there, right there.
Yeah,
One of the
yeah.
things I like to talk about as far as Roberts is concerned, and that unfortunately is lost on much of the hierarchies in Africa, where when a president leaves office or needs to leave office, this lack of creativity, this lack of the absence of opportunities for a person who has served as president of the nation to be able to channel his or her energies to other projects is lacking. That's one of the reasons I'm not saying that's all the reason, but it's one of the reasons why when some of these people are in the presidential chair, you have to use a bulldozer to kind of get them out of the chair, because as if that chair is what they were born with, that's some kind of heritage and other kind of a thing. So the idea that Roberts left, even though at some point he will go back after 1871, go back there to rule, but at least he had an opportunity to channel his energies into other things other than the presidency. Yes.
Maybe when a man left power, he didn't have money. Don't forget, there was money associated with being president of the university. It wasn't free.
Well, we can bring in those things for, but what if he chose to do any other thing besides that and get some of the money? The very fact that he had been president. So I guess we have to give him that due. That's all I'm saying.
So after his visit and everything, so the board, Joseph Tracy, who was still the secretary, right? So they passed the resolutions. It says resolve that we sincerely congratulate the Board of Trustees for Education in Liberia, and that they have secured a valuable service of President Roberts. Resolve that as in order to perpetuity and efficiency, the professorships in the college should be endowed. Immediate efforts ought to be made to secure funds for this purpose. Resolved that a committee of 5 be appointed to have charge of this subject and prepare a plan. Prof, do we have endowed professorships at LU?
Did we ever have that? Actually, Mary Anthony Brown was setting up an endowment for the university. That's all I know. She was setting up. I think not she was setting up. She had set it up. Unfortunately, whatever happened, the funds that were there, of course, you know what happened, the coup and all those things came into the picture, and therefore, a lot of those things, those little monies around slip away and all that. But she did. I know that she'd set up her administration has set up an endowment fund.
So I was saying to you that we're going to have a part 2 to this discussion, and the reason is, Prof, the creation, the story of Liberia College is too much, Prof. It's too much. Number one, right? Remember the land that was gotten at Clay Ashland, right? Granted to the college by the Republic, right? It became too swampy to be used. It was swampland. No other suitable site could be found in that region, in Clay Ashland. So your Clay Ashland people, you come. Let's talk. No problem. You have to listen to this. Look, I took notes.
I know.
like the way you've taught me. I took notes, and let
I
me tell you
know.
something.
Uh,
So they said that they couldn't build on Clay Ashland land, right?
mm.
Because it was swampy. And the people of Clay Ashlands were not having that. They said you will build this university.
You call our name, therefore it has to be there, right?
Yes. So they fought. They fought so much that Joseph Jenkins Roberts said, I quote, I cannot tell you how greatly annoyed I am at the suspension of our college work. Though I have done my very best, I have not been able to accomplish what I had hoped, nor what the board had reason to expect. 18 months have elapsed. When I think of the foolishness of these people, I'm surely discouraged. I feel quite inclined to ask to be relieved from my engagement. End of quote. So the men were so tired because the people from Clay Ashland, they were like, you will build it here. Even if that swamp, you will build it, you will build it here. So of course, that was another problem. When the thing went on 18 months, right?
Mm.
And then it was resolved. Prof, phase two. When everything had been resolved now, a misunderstanding between the president of the Republic, Stephen
Mm.
Allen Benson,
Mm.
and J.J. Roberts. Stephen Allen Benson felt that J.J. Roberts had slighted him, so he refused to sign the Amendment Act.
Mm.
Can you imagine? 3 years later, Prof, before the cornerstone of the college had been laid. No, 3 years later, after the cornerstone had been laid, before that document was signed. Can you imagine, Prof?
But that is, people play with these things. But that is why I call it the peeling back of history. Every
Yes.
generation has to live the core points of a history of the nation.
Yes.
Um, Again, it is not so much of a kind of stirring fire, but to understand first how human people were and have always
Yeah.
been,
Yeah. How
and
human. Yeah, you're right.
to, to, to kind of explore some of the angst that people
Yeah.
had and how they were resolved. So human history is one of conflicts and the resolution of conflicts. Sometimes a particular conflict endures over generations. And then you are asking, well, why has this been this way? And it
Yes.
is through the peeling back of history that we get to understand the actual perspectives and then to have an aha moment and then move on.
And Prof, because like every I think they put out information that dates back 100 years. Then
Yeah.
after another time, they put back information. There's a glut of information out there, but yet people are not. Let me not say that. That sounds too. People have to be very discerning in the history that they read, because if you look at the letters of Edward Wilmot Blyden,
Yeah.
he discusses these things in the letters. He discusses the delay. He discusses Clay Ashland. He discusses the problem with Stephen Allen Benson and J.J. Roberts. So, yes, a primary source speaking about this.
Yeah.
Then you go to the annual report
Yeah.
of the Maryland Colonization Society and you see the same thing.
Yeah.
Then after that, you perhaps go to what's his name? What's the
Oh,
Cromwell's
Cromwell.
letter.
Yeah. Alexander Cromwell. Yeah.
And Alexander Cromwell states these things. And so you realize that when I was reading one of the articles about this Liberia College,
Yeah.
the guy only said there was delay due to a land dispute, right?
Yeah. Mhm.
But when you go to the letters of the day, they tell you it's Clay Ashland, and this is what happened. So the thing is that that as people start to gather information for writing when I say writing, I don't mean WRITE. I'm right, RIGHT,
Mhm.
writing the history of Liberia. Be very careful. That's what we call it, a journey, but a sifting process. That's what you and I do, Prof. We
And
sift.
and 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 again, there's a T word which is triangulation.
Yes.
You are
Yes.
looking at all the parts, not looking at just a tiny part, but you are looking at all the parts and trying as much as possible to make a very important meaning. That is
Yes.
how, for instance, you will understand the core aspects of the major chapters of the national history, either
Yes.
the history of the nation or principal institutions of that nation.
Yes. Yes. So after all this going back and forth, after Stephen Allen Benson had finally signed this document,
Did he
in
get
the
it?
document,
Did he get a
huh?
little cooler nut for that, or did
Yeah,
he get
he
some
got
straight?
no, yeah, a little
Anyway,
palm wine, little juice.
okay.
But after it's signed in the
Mm,
Amendment Act, it says, and I quote, a grant of 20 acres of land
mm,
in Monrovia as a site for the college,
mm,
right?
mm.
Okay. And 1,000 acres to be selected by the trustees of the college from the public domain in each of the 4 counties of the republic. So they have 4 counties.
Mm. So
So
what my thing is, when did the Liberia buy all this land that we are talking about?
it's a public domain, Prof. It's
Yeah,
a
I say
public
public
domain.
domain. I say public domain, but what was how much land that was in this public that was domain that will facilitate the getting of, anyway, go ahead. That's an aside.
So it's almost like eminent domain, I think, or maybe public land.
I
But
know what
yeah.
public domain, eminent domain. I don't. What I'm saying, as far as public land is concerned, how much land that you are taking this 100 acres from, and later on 20 acres from, and another point 50 acres from, and what have you? When first of all, you have to keep in mind that first it was landing on what, on Providence Island. Then all
Yes.
of a sudden, people began to metastasize. It was something like, it was the principle I have in mind, which is what? Step in and just stretch your way through. Just step in, just make your foot your first landing, and then you stretch your way in, stretch your way through. Whatever happens, let it happen, and that sort of a thing. But anyway,
Yeah. I'm thinking about all these different universities in Liberia. When I read this, I was thinking about the State University of New York,
mm,
right? They have the State University of New York at Binghamton,
mm,
State University of New York at Oswego,
yeah,
State University of New York at Potsdam. So
mm,
I'm thinking, why you don't just say University of Liberia in Sino,
mm,
University of Liberia in Maryland,
mm,
University. So you have this one core that you strengthen,
mm, mm.
right? With branches all over the 13 counties. Why don't they do that instead
Well,
of having every Tom, Dick, and Harry create their own institution?
yeah, but of course, the thing about it is that there has to be an element of you don't want to have just one institution with branches. Yes, if an institution is strong enough to have one, two, or three local branches, that's fine. But there has to be some level of diversity, and having this institution and then that institution, each try as much as possible to a kind of accumulate whatever resources it can accumulate. That would be okay. I would think that if you had about 4 universities in the country, and each having one or two other branches, that would be fine. But to have a multiplicity of these, and find out that some of them don't even have the kind of resources that will qualify any one of them as a university, that is the, I call it a tragedy.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tragedy, but I'm just saying that, if you have one main branch,
Mm,
resources might trickle down. But anyway, so the university, um, sorry, so on August 8th, 1861, right?
mm,
J.J. Brown was appointed president, and Prof, listen to how Liberal College was. He was professor of jurisprudence and international law,
mm,
right?
mm.
But Cromwell, Alexander Cromwell,
Cromwell, yeah, his
Cromwell,
Mel.
yeah, sorry,
Yes,
Cromwell, yeah,
yeah,
he
uh-huh.
was professor of intellectual and moral philosophy
Yes. Hmm.
and of the English language and literature.
That's the guy, not to cut you off, that's the guy who believed that if if you were not speaking the Queen's language,
Yes.
then almost like saying then you didn't mean anything at all.
Yes. It didn't
So
mean
he kind
anything at all.
of course, he and Blyden
Biden. Biden.
often kind of had tension over that because
Yes.
Biden
Yes.
was interested also in developing the local languages, the indigenous languages. So at his time, at Blyden's time, Crew was taught in the place, the Pele was taught in that place, and I
Yeah.
think Vi was
They
taught.
said, yeah. They said
Yes.
Edward Blyden
Mhm.
was professor of Greek, Latin, and literature.
Yes.
But Prof. Cromwell was educated at Cambridge University.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. No. That guy was.
And
They said that guy
Blyden
was a
went to,
genius.
yes, and Blyden taught himself. He went to Alexander High
Yeah.
School in
Yeah.
Liberia.
Yes.
In Liberia, and and they were teaching Hebrew,
Mhm.
French,
Yeah.
Latin, rhetorics. I
Mhm.
mean rhetoric, math,
Yeah.
Greek at the University of Liberia,
Yes. Yes.
right? Yeah, and then of course their salary at the time, like for Blyden's salary was paid for by the New York State Colonization Society.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then for the library at Harvard, they got 4,000 volumes from Harvard for the
Okay.
University Library Library, right?
Mhm.
Now, yes, another funny thing, Prof, I don't think this school will ever start. Eh? They say after the inauguration, right? President Benson, listen to this. You have these three professors,
Uh-huh.
right? One is the president and two professors.
Yeah.
Then President Benson, I think President Benson never forgave J.J. Roberts. I think that's what he sent Cromwell and Blyden back to, I mean, to America to encourage emigration,
Yeah.
right? So these two people left, and then you have Une J.J. Roberts. And what does J.J. Roberts do? He took leave to go to England. I'm sorry. It delayed the opening of the college for 1 year.
Yeah. In fact, you will realize that that was not the only time that the college closed. Couple of
Yeah.
times it closed because of
Yes.
all these little shenanigans.
And sometimes there were no students. Okay, they say the
Yes.
entrance exam. This was not now where you just put your name on paper and they say, oh, you passed LU entrance. The entrance exam, there were 7 young men, and those young men, they had to present certificates of good moral character,
Mm-hmm.
and then they take the exam in Greek, Latin, and mathematics.
Mm-hmm.
Of the 7, 3 of them were paid for by the New York colonization, the tuition. The others ones paid for by themselves. So 7.
Yeah.
And then, another problem. J.J. Roberts told Cromwell and Benson and Blyden that they have to live in a dorm. Cromwell says it bothers my mind. I can't think. And Blyden say here his wife they can't live on the dorm, so they used to and to protest when J.J. Roberts told them they must live on the dorm to protest. You know what they did, Prof?
Uh-uh.
They stopped teaching. They stopped teaching.
Now,
I'm sorry. I got involved in all the little itty bitty things.
yeah, which is good. For instance, today at the University of Liberia, you know what's happening where the faculty decided to lay down their chalk and dusters.
Oh.
Yes, yes, yes. Because of some slides. In fact, you can't call them slides anymore. They for some time they've been paying their premiums as far as insurance is concerned, and also paying into retirement. It happened that one of the members of the faculty had a health problem, and that's when the whole secret burst out because when it came time to a kind of foot the bill and what have you, they went in the university. According to the spokesman who was interviewed, said for several administrations now, few administrations now, the university had not been paying and the amounts they were taking off the faculty. The university had not been paying that into the coffers of the insurance as well as the Social Security treasury. So
And
anyway, the point I'm making is that they down their chalk, they down their dusters, and someone asked them, "Well, see what you are doing. You are stalling the progress of the students." And they said, "Well, look, we ourselves, this is life and death matter. We ourselves, we want to empathize or sympathize with the students. Yet think about us. See what is happening." So what I'm saying is that what you were saying about the tension that developed in the early days of the university, which is in the case of the Liberia College, people decided if something affected my life and what have you, the best thing to do, well, at least that's how they felt. The best thing to do is to just down the chalk and wait until the problem is dealt with.
and this controversy with all of these things also came to a head when the New York Colonization Society,
Yeah,
they said that the Liberia College was being hampered by the fact that it was in Monrovia. They wanted it in the rural areas
yeah,
to train everybody, not just train because they felt that the University of Liberia was for the elites.
yeah,
And so they wanted, in fact, this sentiment is echoed in Blyden's letters,
yeah.
because in one of his letters he talked about a cruel man, bless you, Prof,
Thank
a
you.
cruel man, a cruel father who brings his son to the dorm to live there and brings food for his son.
Mhm.
And he was saying that, oh, this was one of the first time that an indigenous person, he said, oh, maybe now the indigenous people are seeing the value of education. But the New York Colonization Society refused to give any more money. And remember, the New York Colonization Society was the one paying Blyden's salary.
Mhm.
It went from $800 a year to 1,000, I think, later
Yeah.
on. But they were the ones, they said, no, you have to cater to all people, not just and in fact, they even when they wrote the letter, this is what they said. I quote: "The necessity that Liberia should get rid of the spirit of caste, which now that immigration has become insignificant, will continue to prevent further growth of Liberia. The situation at Monrovia excludes the Aborigines, and it would not. The school would give equal opportunity to the Aboriginal pupils there to become, by advanced education, some of the leading citizens, and this is the only means by which the spirit of caste against them can be extinguished."
That was like echoing the Jeffersonian perspective to public education.
Yes,
Thomas
yes.
Jefferson, wrote several papers indicating that public education, uh, well supported, would help a kind of broaden, informed citizenry. Uh, all citizens have got to have that type of education that will help them contribute to critical thinking, contribute to, of course, becoming a part and parcel of the working force, so that whatever income they will be getting, they will pay taxes, and the taxes will be a kind of increase the coffers of the public. So it was more of a Jeffersonian type of perspective to higher education for critical thinking and for helping to replenish public funding.
But and that's why the New York State Colonization Society was saying, because it seemed as if, because of its location and the group that it catered to at the time, there were not a lot of students. They said that there were only 57 students admitted between 1864 and 1976. Prof, 57?
Hmm.
And then they said 26 or nearly 50% left before graduation, most of them during their freshman year. 10 died during their course of study, mostly from malaria. Only 10 students took bachelor's degree during the entire 19th century. It was not until 1903 that there was another graduate. During the entire period, as many as 90% of the students came from Monrovia itself. So you
And
see, yeah, there were not a lot of There were not a lot of people from the indigenous sector coming. Desmond Finley, I'm looking at some of the comments. He
Okay,
wants
all
to
comments.
call. Yeah, but I would let's look at some of the comments if people have questions, and then
Okay,
maybe
okay.
we can continue. Oh, Stephen Fowler said he's watching. Hi, Stephen. Hi, Mr.
Jerome,
Jerome.
Gaiman.
Great history. Franklin Weller says he's watching from Baltimore. Hi,
Okay.
Frank. Oh, William Kamara says he's watching from Johnsonville. Tell those people in Clay Ashland,
Washington from
watching from
Eastman, Jimmy.
Washington,
Okay,
D.C. Yeah, Jimmy Eastman. Kaifa Bala says he's watching from the township of Johnsonville.
okay.
Chiple Chebo says thanks for the show. It's always enlightening. He says great show. Desmond Finlay said, when can we call? Desmond, I don't know. I'm not technologically advanced like that, except his slaves though. I
I
don't
said,
I,
well,
so,
except his
so
slaves.
I don't know if you can call. We can
What,
ask
what is meant by
he,
except his slaves, though?
because Jefferson didn't extend his children to his slave. That's what he's saying.
Well,
Yeah, and he said, "Oh, Desmond is in Australia." Well,
mm,
Desmond, hi. I think maybe you can write your questions because I don't know how to answer the phone. I don't know if Anthony is here to answer to help us. So you can ask the questions again. I mean, I know that we're going slowly, but it's just that it's so rich, you know. It's so rich the history of, like, I mean sometimes you want to cry when you see how Liberia, I mean, how the University of Liberia has fallen, in stature. Because look, Prof, I will read this last one, and then we can discuss. Look at what Blyden said. He said, Liberia College, I quote, Liberia College under proper management and under the guidance of proper teachers will revolutionize the thoughts not only of the citizens of the Republic about themselves, but of other Africans and of foreigners with regards to Africans. It will produce the Liberian scholar who will study and comprehend the ways of God in Africa, who, with that insight, with a genuine sympathy, gave, will understand the African, right? And then he says that there is much in what we call this crudeness and superstitions that is educative. There is much in their government, in their religion, in their social customs, which we must study and understand and take advantage of in order to live in this country.
that's
End of quote.
Blyden now. That's
That's
Blyden.
Blighty
Yes,
saying
that's
that
Blyden.
the indigenous
Yeah,
people have a contribution to
yeah,
make.
that's
And listen
Blyden.
to listen to what comes after. He wanted African courses, right?
Yeah,
He introduced Pele and Vibe, but listen to this. This African ideological curriculum was never implemented.
yeah.
There was no one to teach it, and there was no interest in a part of Africans in researching African culture. Nothing has changed today, Prof. I remember when I was coming to the United States on a Fulbright, and I was doing comparative lit, and I went to get my ticket, and the lady said, "Oh, what are you going to study?" And I said, "Comparative literature and history." And she said, "Oh," and I said, "Yes, but it's African and African American comparative lit." She said, "What? You're going to America to study African literature?" But they were not teaching it at the university.
Mhm.
They were not.
In
Yeah.
fact, I know the kind of little tension that I created when I wanted to have a whole course, a whole course for the teaching of Liberian literature.
Yes.
The powers at the time were not a kind of receptive to that. I had gone back to Liberia with my masters, and I said, well, look, in all or most of these African universities, even though they have African literature, they do have literature for the nation itself. Like there will be a study program in Ghanaian literature, Senegalese literature, even though they have. And this guy said, "Oh well, we already have African literature in this place. We can't have." And when they threw the challenge, I went and I did research, and I got something like almost between 25 and 30 books, resources for the beginning of the teaching of, I call it seminar in the teaching of Liberian literature. And we fought so hard for it. The only thing they would kind of accept was that, the course in social science, is it 201, where
Yes.
people talk about topics in the Liberian society in the last days, especially that was in 1989, when of course the war was almost here. The first semester of that year, I began teaching seminar in the study of Liberian literature, and then the war came. But all I'm saying is that, for some reason, people find it difficult to accept the fact that while we are teaching the global African literature, we need to teach literature that is local, a
Yes.
more
Yes.
circumscribed type of literature that students should kind of understand and absorb.
And at many of the universities here, the Ivy Leagues university, and others, they have a whole courses on Usman Semben, Senegalese literature,
Yeah.
Senegalese
Mm-hmm.
theater.
Mm-hmm.
All of those things. In Liberia, I mean, just shown their own. So one of the letters Blyden wrote in 1881, right, to one of the secretary of the trustees for the donation. He's trying to encourage this man so that they can stop the money because they are
Yeah.
not getting indigenous people. He said, yes, sir. He said the third term of the Liberia College began on the 15th instant. And a session to the freshman class from the Alexander High School at Clay Ashland supplies the place of the young man who withdrew at the close of the first term on account of his inability to support himself in this expensive place. As an evidence of the advancing educational sentiment, I may mention that a crewman brought his son to be entered on the list of students in a preparatory department, having paid the required fee for the term. The boy has taken up his abode in the college building, and his meals are sent to him by his parents, who reside at the crew town, about a half a mile from the college.
Mm-hmm.
This is a new thing. It has created a good deal of interest. The crewmen have all along been indifferent to the advantages of even elementary education for their children. But the new department in the college has so pleased them that they are becoming anxious to pay for a college education for their sons.
There is a context to the idea of crewmen being, and it wasn't crewmen being indifferent to. The idea was that those who were at the hierarchy of the nation, uh, they often went out there in the rural areas and mistreated the people. And
Yeah.
the idea was that if education can produce people that are mean to us, that are this brutal and what have you, then education is not worth pursuing. So
Yes.
one has to understand the context, because after all, by that time, the crewmen had traveled all over the world
Yes.
as a seafarer and what have you, and therefore they knew, you couldn't say that they didn't know the importance of education, but it was more of a kind of rebellion against such thing as education, when those who had already had it were mistreating other people down the coast and all those places there. So a
Yeah.
context would be okay as a result of understanding why such a thing will happen.
Yeah. So they were encouraging more and more indigenous
Yeah.
people to come instead of what the New York State Colonization Society wanted was to move the university. But instead, they were saying no, they will encourage the indigenous people to
To
come
come.
to college. So I thought that, even like I said, you have to sift these historical sources, and you see that when they are mentioning it around the same time, Edward Wilmot Blyden's letter shows that it was happening. Maybe it was one, but it was happening at the
Yeah.
time. Yeah. So let's look at some more comments, Prof, and then we can
Yeah.
we can
You were
start
running.
again. Desmond Finlay says The history data indicates one fundamental and consistent issue: lack of inclusion. This persists today. Okay. Okay, historical data, I think. Uriah Gba says the imagination of our people was pervasive, and even now, they are still not tired doing that. We will continue to battle for the emancipation of our people and our country and our people. That they wouldn't have allowed you knowing how they intended to keep the rest of the country in poverty and ignorance. Dr. Michael Wana said, I hope that some of the leaders of our universities are listening and will take heed to include Liberian history and literature in the courses that are taught at the universities. Yeah.
Well, my brother, the thing about it is that if you are waiting for for the leaders themselves to do that, you will take a longer time. I think what we are doing and what some of you are doing, always contributing to the conversation, is very much important. We, ordinary people, we have to kind of keep the push. And you can see that even in the United States of America, it is the ordinary people who will have to kind of light the fire under the feet of presumed leaders. Otherwise, nothing will be done.
Yeah, and you must. I mean, we barely touched on the history today, and the thing is, just because we wanted to set, I guess, the background
Yeah.
to discuss further and to show how, given all of these challenges and things, then we move into the place of Liberia College and the University of Liberia in Africa. It was the beacon.
Yeah.
It was truly lux in tenebris. It was light in darkness. And the university, many of the people who went to the university became leaders. J.J. Roberts, they didn't go there, but Edward Biden, right? Garrison W. Gibson, Arthur Barkley, Charles D.B. King, they all went to the University of Liberia. I'm sorry.
Of course, anyway, the case of Blyden is, to a large extent, he was self-taught, and as you were saying, from Alexander High School, that's all the formal education he had. But this guy was driven. Yes. This guy was motivated. This guy was, I mean, he was a tour de force unto himself. And so a lot of the things he got, actually, he contributed merely to whatever it was. Anyway.
Yeah. So then when it was established, now here are the colleges, right? And the following schools, Prof. The William V.S. Tubman, I mean, that was after. Okay, before we jump there, Prof, from Liberia College, why did it move now to the University of Liberia? What's the transition?
No, but the thing about it is that, again, a lot of things were happening around the world. And just as there is a typical thing about Liberia, for instance, we had commercial schools. We had commercial schools. Then all of a sudden, almost all of these commercial schools, when the time came, they kind of either raised themselves or whatever happened, they became community colleges.
Yes.
So in other words, there were movements arising for people to transition from mere colleges to universities, and that is how the time came for the University of Liberia. So that, for instance, the preparatory school that will feed into Liberia College, that preparatory school became Tubman High. Tubman High, because first it was Laboratory High.
Yeah, Laboratory High.
Lab High. Yeah, Lab High, and then
I'm not that old to remember, but my great grandmother used to talk about Laboratory High.
Yes, and of course through reading too, you've kind of enhanced your own knowledge. So that's no big thing about it. But anyway, so that is how Liberia College was raised to a university through the a resolution at the legislative branch of government, and the charter and everything were done in 1951, and that kind of went through.
And Prof, with all of this African pan-Africanism, that what's his name? Edward Wilmot Blyden.
Yes.
When Blyden became president of the university, it was not a good time.
Mm-hmm.
Blyden, actually, there was a race riot at the university
Yeah.
orchestrated by Blyden, who hated the light-skinned blacks. And not only that, there were two professors who had come from America, and he refused for them to teach. He made their life hell until the board of trustees and told him to resign.
L'enfant terrible. That's a French people would say. Terrible fellow.
Yeah,
Annoying
it,
fellow.
it says he alienated most members of the Liberian board of trustees and his own faculty because of his intense dislike
Mm.
of mulattoes and his self-righteousness. He failed to get along with two new professors who arrived in Monrovia.
Uh-huh.
He refused for them to teach. Hugh Mason Brown and Thomas Stewart. He recruited them, but then when they got there, he said no. And then when the board called him to a meeting, he just left and went to Sierra Leone. So when he came back, they forced him to resign.
Blyden was,
Yeah.
in a sense, some thorn in the flesh of the elite of the day. Blyden.
Yeah, and so when in his letter,
Mm.
in his letter, when he came back and they forced him to resign, he said that he was elected without any indication on his part of any desire to occupy the position. So he said he didn't even want the job. He said, and the people who put him there, they realized they had the full knowledge on the part of the trustees of his views with regard to the necessity of removing the college to an interior site. He wanted the college moved from Monrovia, you know. Yeah. So he says that he said that yes they forced him to resign, but he says that then he apologized. He apologizes. He said, oh, he's so sorry. Things got out of hand. I shall soon
That
leave here and
that
hope to be
that
in the
devil
United
fooled me.
States. Yeah, but actually it was a resolution that I was trying to find, and then he started telling the people how here it is. You were saying why JJ Roberts took the job.
Uh-huh.
Here is Blighty saying I'm very short of means. So he's Blighty himself don't have money, so he wants money. So he's apologizing and saying that, oh, if he's offered the chance again, he will know what to do. But Prof, I'm telling you, we just barely scratched the surface.
Mhm.
Part one, I think the audience agrees with me. This is part one, right? Audience, be participatory. We should continue this, right? We should continue this discussion next
Yeah.
week.
Mhm.
Yeah, no, Prof. Really, because we've stopped now to Blyden, but there's so much more after. There's so much more up to today at the university. The history is rich. We're going to discuss more about the different presidents, the challenges that they faced. So we can continue this next week because I think we've almost out of our time now. But
Yeah.
I want to hear it from the audience because nobody's writing. Do you want us to continue this discussion next week,
Oh.
or Prof gonna make us do something else?
What? Do what? Please leave me alone. No, Tenebris. Oh, I'm
Yes.
a Tenebris. Oh, this is what I love.
Okay. Now, no, now, and Mr. Gaiman said this is part 1 of 5. Thank you, Mr. Gaiman. But before,
God, one of our, oh, Jerome, don't chaos in this place. Yeah, I beg you.
yes, this will be continued because this is very important. But Prof, before we go, I think 2 weeks ago, you and I we sang the national anthem and we sang. Now, for all you alumni of Samuel Zabe, hi Sam. He said imperialism was induced in a repatriated free slave. The so-called covert imperialism was injected in those free slaves, who in turn unleashed the torments and hardship on indigenous people. This deprived the natives of quality education and better living, except where you adopted the name of the repatriated free slave. This continued until William V.S. Tubman decentralized education in the sub-region.
Decentralized.
Ibrahim says we should continue the show, and Jerome Gamer said, please do, we need more. Now, Prof, we're going to continue. We're going to take it slow. We've talked about the Massachusetts Colonization Society. We're going to continue this to the bitter end, but we are going to have a treat today because Prof is going to sing the alma mater, the school oath
Look
of
at that.
the University of
But we
Liberia.
haven't gone anywhere. Then you say people must
So
sing.
the first stanza,
Uh,
the first
well,
stanza, bro.
please forgive my froggy voice. I don't. So, then it goes something like this. Lux and Tenebris, O Amemeta, to thee we raise our joyous light. May the benignant races fast spreading, light in our years for aye. Here in the halls thy sons and their daughters gather afar from a wide domain, gracefully chant the paean of praises in an exalted strain. Now we look back on lost from departed years that were mingled blessings and being, yet through thy trails proudly thou reignest, Queen shall forever reign. Cherished in wonder, O Liberia, may thy fame for years, ages endure. And then it goes on like that. Please, the next
Yeah,
time we are going to complete that process. Yes. Yes, we will
So
complete that process. Just a taste of
everybody
it.
should learn the song.
Yes.
Everybody should learn it. Those
Mhm.
of you who they didn't beat, those of you who didn't take part in the orientation where they didn't beat you to learn this song. Before you get in Tottenham Hall, learn this song.
Where you living, Ato Nanu Male? Ato Nanu Male was one of those who swore to everything that people had to memorize the university school oath. Oh my God.
Yeah,
Yes,
yes,
okay,
yes,
Labi. Thank
yes.
you
So,
for
Prof,
being in our audience.
yes, yes. You know, we say to all of you are new that the matter is Dawn is singing.
What's with the son? What's the son? Ah,
Yeah, okay. Jerome said we should expand on Clay's assertion and perspective that black men being capable of self-determination. Okay, we will do that. Clay was the one that Joseph Tracy wrote the letter to. We will do that on the next show. So Prof, we've come to the end, but there's so much more. Say, oh, Dr. Wanda said, I knew you were talented, Prof.
just leave me alone, okay? Mike. Uh,
Prof. Yeah. So we come to the end, and we would like to say thank you. We always say that we come to this show, and it's just so nice to be here to talk about things, to talk about what the University of Liberia means to us. A lot of us don't know the history. I mean, even there were some things that I was learning, and I was like, "Whoa, I didn't know this." So we thank you for joining us. Okay, Samuel Zabe said he wants the lyrics. Samuel, don't you know the lyrics by heart?
we'll
we
try to
will
get it
try
out
and
there.
we will try and post the
Maybe
lyrics
you
next
get it
time. We will.
on the our website, FOL website.
Yeah, on FOL website. Yeah. So we want to thank you again. You know, we say when we come here, it's almost like family. We're on a journey, and we always have fun. You know, this is not difficult. We love to be here. We love to have fun. Prof and I is good. You know, the teacher becomes the student, and I hope the student becomes the teacher sometimes. So yes, Jerome Gables, this is my NPR. I'm glued always. Because Mr. Gaiman, I mean, history is such a rich thing, you know. It's like when we're doing research, it's like I'm like, I didn't know this. I want to know more. And then sometimes my friends say, but all you have to do is just do a little research. I say, no, let's do this, let's do this.
Yeah.
And Prof is very rigorous. He's a hard task master.
Leave me alone. But that's
Samuel Zabe said he forgot. Oh, okay, we'll put it up there for you. So good night, everybody.
yes.
We will say good night. Anthony, are you there? I don't know if I'm supposed to end the broadcast. I think I'm supposed to end the broadcast. But thank you very much for joining us today. We really enjoyed it, and stay well.
I'm
Stay
here,
safe.
Jackie. I'll end it.
Yes, stay safe and mask up. Tell your friends and family to mask up. And remember, whether you went to laboratory high, I don't know if you were that old, whether your parents went to preparatory school, whether
Yeah,
your parents were among the first seven people, or your
yeah,
grandparents to start the school, whether you were for Blyden or you were for Cromwell or you for Arthur Barclay, or we are all Liberians.
yeah.
Every single one of us,
Mm.
so we come here to have fun and to learn history. So thank you very much and stay safe.
Yeah.
Hi, Prof.
We are Labira. Labira is our home. Labira people. Either you raise it or we want. Labira. Either you raise it or we want. Labira, Labira.